Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Silverman, co-founder of Commerce Next. We are a community event series and conference for marketers at retail and DTC brands. I'm here in beautiful, sunny northern New Jersey. I hope everyone joining in is doing well. On behalf of my co-founders, Veronica Sonsev and Alan Dick, I'd like to welcome you all to our weekly webinar. Today, it's capitalizing on the gifting economy. How do you stack up? And we'll hear what happened during Mother's Day a couple weeks ago. We'll look at a study of gifting featuring 50 different retailers. Then we'll hear a couple retail e-commerce veterans and executives share their point of view on gifting. And as always, we're taking your questions, so feel free to load those up during the presentations. And thank you again for tuning in, making the time to listen live or be listening to the replay. Want to share a couple other important thank yous. First, to our speakers today, Lauren Freedman, president of the e-tailing group, Laurie Gatto, senior director digital marketing at Chico's FAS, Jackie Diette, director e-commerce at Spade, New York, John Gresh, head of retail partnerships at Gift Now. And we recognize how busy all of you are, and we really appreciate you making time to share your insights and perspectives with the Commerce Next community. We are thanking you with a gift, compliments of Gift Now. And not just our speakers, but 5 lucky attendees who are listening live will also be getting a gift. So maybe some of you are listening already have been the lucky recipient of some of those. And I want to give a big thank you to Gift Now, Loop Commerce, for sponsoring today's webinar. We could not bring all of these weekly webinars to you, which we've been doing almost on a regular basis since March of last year, without the support of our sponsors. So thank you to Gift Now for supporting us and sharing some research and insights on this important topic. So as far as today's agenda, I'm first going to go through a little bit of housekeeping, and then we're going to have a presentation from John on Mother's Day and gifting trends. And then Lauren Freedman is going to be talking about the gifting index. We have a couple questions to ask our audience to get their point of view. And then we'll turn our cameras on, for our speakers and have a panel discussion. And we'll be able to take some of your questions during then. Again, we encourage you to put those questions in and submit those, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. A couple things that are coming up. So we have a bonus webinar called Stop Asian Hate, How to Avoid Racial Stereotypes in Marketing, that is immediately after this from 3 to 3:30 Eastern Time. We partnered with Gordon Ho, who is on the board of the Coalition of Asian Pacifics in Entertainment. Also on that webinar is Ekta Chopra from Elf Beauty, Chen Wei from Lemonade, and then Veronica Sonsev, one of my fellow co-founders, is going to be moderating that. So again, just stay here. After that, you will be automatically moved over to that webinar if you'd like to continue and take a listen into that. And then next week on Wednesday, March 26th, is our webinar, Elevating Customer Experience for E-commerce Growth. And that features executives at Rothy's, Joybird, Princess Polly, Gorgeous, and that is going to be also moderated by Veronica. And as a quick reminder, we have been archiving all of the videos and past presentations on YouTube. Right now, there's over 100 of those there. So I encourage you to go to the Commerce Next YouTube channel. There's a ton of great content on there for you to watch. So housekeeping notes, don't worry if you about missing anything. I've mentioned replays. We're recording this webinar. You'll have an email tomorrow where you can see that recording, and want to show you a couple things on your screen. So in the big marker console on the upper right, you'll see the main features, which is chat, Q&A, polls, and handouts up on the upper right. And so for chat, this is if you want to make a comment about a session, share any observations. We just ask everybody to keep it respectful. You can do that in the chat. If you want to ask questions to the speakers and have those answered during the webinar, use the Q&A tab and just ask your question In there, you'll see questions from other attendees. You can upvote those. That helps prioritize the questions. And then down on the bottom right is where you submit your questions. So again, we encourage you to do that. We like to keep these as interactive as possible. There's 3 handouts. So you'll see the handout tab. We have John's presentation on gifting and Mother's Day data, Lauren's presentation on the gifting index, and then there is a white paper or a research paper from Incisive that was commissioned by GiftNow, the evolution of gift cards from transactions to engagement. So you can download all of those handouts in the handout section. And if you're listening to the replay, all of that information is on that little disk drive thing on the bottom right. With that, with those introductions, I would like to bring up to our virtual stage John Gresh. He is the head of retail partnerships at GiftNow. He's going to share some new data on gifting, including what happened during Mother's Day. And then he's going to just introduce Lauren Freedman, who will be walking through the gifting index. So John, thanks for joining us. Welcome. The stage is all yours.
Great, and thanks for having us, Scott. Appreciate the opportunity to share the story that we're going to tell here around Loop and GiftNow, and then especially the content that Lauren is going to share around the research project. So excited to have the opportunity to talk to everybody. I don't think I need to tell anyone that gifting as an act deepens connections and relationships between people, whether that be peer-to-peer, sort of consumer to consumer, or whether that be a way to enhance a business relationship with an individual. In the end, we're all humans. We all enjoy this act. And it turns out that there's a lot of business and a lot of opportunity pent up in what we call the gifting economy. The market is big and it's growing, and it's actually outpacing the digital growth that we've seen, especially even over the last year, where we've seen more explosive growth than we had originally anticipated. So we're talking about a probably $500 million market by the end of 24. Gift cards themselves are 160 billion, which is nothing to shake a stick at. It's growing pretty fast and not dissimilar from retail penetration. The physical plastic world of gift card makes up about 95% of the sales, but the digital is growing at a much higher clip, with a 23% growth over the 20 to 25 years. Just reflecting a little bit back on what we've seen, because obviously we're at the center of the universe in terms of gifting. It's all we kind of obsess about helping our retailers and our corporations win at. And so we have a unique take on what seasonality looks like, and the consumer and behavioral trends that go behind the way that shoppers shop and when they buy and how they buy and with what occasion in mind and so on and so forth. And so I thought this was an interesting data point to share around 2019 versus 2020 versus what we've seen so far in 2021. And so the quick learnings, obviously gifting is an evergreen business, but does have seasonal spikes around December holidays, as well as Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, and the other major holidays that we celebrate. The number one actual gifting event that we see on the platform, though, is birthday. And that's an everyday event. It's 800,000 people a day are celebrating their next year of life, and people gift quite a bit around that. It's a little bit harder to spot, but it is out there, and it's happening all the time. The observation that I wanted to point out in this particular slide was the growth we saw between 19, 20, and then 21, especially as we look at the beginning of this year. And so it was flat. The blue line is 20. It was flat with regards to growth over 19. But as soon as we had the shelter-in-place orders across the country, we saw the line start to split with 2020 or 2019. And that maintained throughout the balance of the year. And so we saw people turning to the digital channels, as we all did, right, in this business, turning to the digital channels as ways of not only buying for themselves, but expressing, their gratitude, their thanks, their love, their appreciation through gifting as a primary mean for delivering. Big spike in winter holiday. Probably the biggest departure was around Mother's Day, right after the lockdown. And that's when we really saw sort of adoption grow. This year was similar. A lot more gifts were happening throughout the beginning of the year. We saw it on Valentine's Day, we saw the line sort of get close to last year's line in Mother's Day. And we anticipated that, actually, based on the fact that we were all going to get to see mom this year. We were going to be able to have that dinner together, to take her to lunch or whatever it happens to be. And so some interesting patterns. We'll look to show this, obviously, again throughout the year, and look at just how this model continues to kind of evolve and emerge. A couple of standouts from Mother's Day worth mentioning. Men actually led the Mother's Day gifting purchases. We tend to fall behind in occasions throughout the year, but this year we saw with Mother's Day, we were over half the gifts were being purchased and delivered by the male audience. And so it's a 21% increase over the average throughout the year. So sort of tip, think a lot about your male audience leading up to Mother's Day next year. That might be a secret weapon that you can deploy. AOVs went up almost 15%, despite us at least observing heavier promotion. And so, something interesting about that, product gifting rose as a comparison or index over gift card. And so people were looking to offer products as a way of expressing themselves over, the currency that lives on a gift card, to the tune of 25%. And we see this through the behavioral economic studies that we do around what drives people to give certain things and in what occasion, what relationship, so on and so forth. And so we really saw that sort of stand out this past Mother's Day. And we also saw scheduled gifts. And so for us, the ability for you to deliver instantly is a capability in the platform. And that's oftentimes how people are using it, because it's a last minute situation that they're getting themselves into, or they need to get that gift into somebody's inbox, for example, 5 minutes from now, not 5 days from now. When you see people scheduling more often or as a higher rate, then it means they're prepared more, right? They're generally doing that multiple days in advance. And so sort of note to self was people were more aware of Mother's Day this year. They were more prepared for it than we had seen in the past. And as a result, we saw more scheduled gifts than instant delivered gifts. And so this is our wrap up for Mother's Day. We do this type of readout after every holiday. Obviously with a lot more detail. I'm trying to cram it in a short amount of time so we can give as much time as we can to Lauren and then to the wonderful crew we have coming up on the panel. So Scott, I'll turn it back to you.
All right, I am going to ask Lauren Freedman to come join the stage.
Hi, Scott.
And all right, you got yours. So I'm going to remove myself here and let you go. Thanks, Lauren.
All right. Thank you, Scott. And I'm glad to be here with some old friends. And I'm certainly excited to hear that men have risen to the occasion here on the gifting. I'm always thinking about my daughter's rising to the occasion on this. So all of us will be gifting as much as possible. So I'm here to share with you today a little bit about the 2020 Gifting Index that we put together. Just a little bit of background on the e-tailing group. We've been involved in e-commerce for the last 25 or so years, a long time. And our focus is really on technology, thought leadership, go-to-market strategies for some of the largest tech companies, as well as always focused on the customer. For me, the customer experience was always first and foremost in my mind. And a lot of the mystery shopping, which we were sort of the first to do online, actually emanated and is really part of the index that you see today. So let's dig in, and I'll share with you my goal for this presentation is really to bring the e-tailing group 2020 Gifting Index to life. I hope in some way it inspires you to educate yourself about this process, the results, the business opportunity, because it really has to work for you and for your business. It's not a one-size-fits-all scenario. I'm going to explore with you some of the gifting fundamentals that we've created and the features that we think are important, why I think they matter, and some recommendations for retailers that will resonate, as well as some of the best practices that we saw along the way. So in terms of the framework, what we did was we selected 50 retailers. You can see they're in 7 different categories. So, we've got the typical A to Z of retailers, but we've got from a mass merchant's perspective, everyone from an Amazon to a Target, a Walmart, department stores representing that segment, Kohl's, Macy's, Nordstrom's, and Neiman's. Apparel's a little bit broader, everyone from like Chico's on the Line to Gap to catalogers like a Land's End, more of the luxury side with Kate Spade, Michael Kors, Tory Burch. You can kind of see it runs the gamut. sporting goods, Dick's Sporting Goods on the retail side, but as well as someone like a Nike and REI from a little bit of a different perspective. In the home space, create IKEA, Wayfair, Williams-Sonoma, accessories across the board, a little bit on the shoe side, the jewelry side, the Coach, Kate Spade, K's, Toomey. And then kind of a passion, which is a little bit of a catch-all, where we have some of the tech folks like Apple and Best Buy, GameStop, and then, Michael's on the crafty side, as well as Sephora and Ulta on the beauty piece. We divided things, just kind of keeping track of it, into 4 fundamentals. And here I'm going to touch on each of those, but we have gift cards, gift merchandising, loyalty and gifting programs, and customer service. And altogether, we looked at 20 features for each of these 50 retailers. So let's dig into some of the fundamentals. So from a fundamentals perspective, obviously the gift cards pretty much speaks for itself, but it's like, do you have gift cards on the site? And how much can you customize them, whether it be video or some of the personalization? And I'll touch on that a little bit later. There's 4 features in there. And for each of the features, we're allocating 5 points. So it's a simple math equation there. So basically 20 points are in the gift cards. From a gift merchandising perspective, we're really focused on what tactics are the retailers using to showcase the gifts? Like, what are you putting in play to inspire the shopper, to encourage them to buy a gift, and how visible it is, how accessible, what kinds of links do you have available? And here we have 6 features, 30 points on the allocation. From a loyalty and gifting program perspective, we talk more here about more of a brand initiative, so more corporate wide. So there we have 4 features and 20 points. And customer service, which I know is a little bit unusual, but if any of you know me, I'm kind of a customer service junkie. And so I think it's important because as people choose to buy their gifts, they are still thinking about customer service aspects. So shipping, delivery, the policies that you have, everything that supports your gifting strategy. And here we had 6 features and 30 points allocated. One thing I learned early on, in the early 90s, before the internet was even there, we were looking at AOL, was basically that people want to know, retailers want to know how they stack up. What's their score? How do they look relative to another retailer? And nothing's changed in that regard. So as I said, we assigned your business and ask you to assign yourself either 0 or 5 points if you have this feature. Total it by fundamental, or you can total them all together. Add the scores from each of the fundamentals, you get your final score, and then compare your grade to the retailers surveyed. So if you have 3 retailers that you're always looking at, or 3 retailers you're looking at and 2 that you consider best in the industry but maybe aren't in your category, see how they're doing and see how you stack up. So let's dig in now. So the gifting fundamental number 1 is gift cards. And you can see that we start with, do you have the plastic? And you heard John talk about, the volume that's being done there. So it's a physical card that could be delivered to a gift recipient on the site. You can see that it's almost universal penetration at 90%. The digital gift card, 96%, because some of the people that we're working with don't actually have a physical gift card, may have gone digital only based on who they are. The ability to personalize and customize that. Here we're at 84%. And there it means the gift giver can add a personal touch, a theme, change that out, add a message, or choose the gift card by occasion. And then the last one is video. And, obviously we think the video is sort of a missed opportunity. Because the ability to add a personalized video, it can really set apart the experience. I mean, think of what it was like in COVID. We're home. Some of us, we're all still home now, but that can differentiate the brand. And here only 16% of the retailers had that. Just to give you a sense of that, that included American Eagle, Uniqlo, Lands' End, David Yurman, Birkenstock, and Dover Saddlery. So again, it's a broad cross section, but I think it adds a nice touch, and it certainly has appeal across a wide range of demographics. One of the best practices that we pulled, and these were not actually done for these slides, so it's great that we have Kate Spade joining. I love this visual image because I could click on gifts on the site, and I'm a fan of one-stop shopping of anything. So this is all the ways they make gifting easy, and for a lot of us, we're looking for a stress-free experience. It's a nice mix of features from the personalized gifts, which many of us might want to have something monogrammed there. They've got your e-gift cards in as well as your gift cards. The mix of private appointments, which we know has become, critical during these virtual days. Gift wrapping, gift now, the capability we're talking about today. Some of the omni-channel features like a BOPUS or buy online, pick up in store, shop runner if you're interested in the free 2-day shipping. But what I also love the most is the fact that the customer care is here, and the contact us I can do directly from here. One of the things I always found frustrating was when you can't get a hold of someone. Most of the time when you're looking to get a hold of someone, you're not in a good mood. You want to solve a problem, and so you don't want to be hunting around for that. So they did a nice job, I think, of bringing this into a one-stop experience. Gifting fundamental number 2 is the gift merchandising. So, being a merchant at heart, this is my background. It's all about romancing the product. These are the tactics that the retailers use to showcase the gifts. As we all know, or in my mind, optimal gift merchandising strategies, they really start with the gift center. That's that location that houses the experience. It's where people go when they want to be inspired. They want to find what you have. And it's important, and it can be something that should be on the site from a year-round perspective. You can see that 92% of the retailers had that available. So again, almost on every site. And hand in hand with that goes the gifts by attribute. So the ability to search or sort or filter by the typical things that a gift giver is looking to do that by: the price, the recipient, and the occasion. The ones that are a little bit different are the top sellers and the what's new. And these were something that we looked at strictly from a gift center perspective. So of course, more retailers would have top sellers, or of course, most retailers would have what's new, but only a handful had them on the site. 42% highlighted popular products within gifting, while 10% highlighted those products that they recently added to the site. I think the what's new, again, is opportunistic, because as a shopper, I tend to buy from certain retailers, let's say for my daughter, and I want to see, maybe what's the new makeup you have, or what's the new bag that you have. So this isn't a way for me to, do that. And of course, we all know a lot of people, I think, gravitate to the top sellers. It's a confidence builder for them. And the last one I'm going to touch on is probably the most innovative, which is the gift advisor. We made this a little broader to encompass more people, but basically retailers have the opportunity to offer an interactive tool, an individual, like, chat with a stylist, live chat, or a bot to facilitate choosing a gift. Unfortunately, only 14% of retailers had this in place. So again, something to be considered maybe as you're thinking about it from a holiday perspective. A few people that did have that included Chico's, Tory Burch, Kay, Sephora, Lululemon, Neiman's, Nordstrom, Walmart, and Target. So again, some pretty strong merchants. So interesting, and maybe a place that you want to take a look. I'm featuring for one of my best practices here, actually a Target. And this I pulled from a Mother's Day, but it seems to be a pretty typical layout that they have throughout the year. So I can come to my gift center, I see my gift ideas, I can find the perfect gift. Who am I shopping for? I'm usually shopping for my teen. The occasion here is obviously Mother's Day, but in this instance, they tee up a lot of products. So I'm pretty inspired and thinking, wow, if this is my daughter, I'm hoping she's looking at this thing. There's a few things that I could consider for my mom that she might be interested in. As John mentioned, with birthdays being such a big piece of it, you see that kid's birthday resonates, as well as housewarming for more of year-round capabilities. So don't forget that there is a huge, all-around capability when it comes to gifting, and it's not just about the fourth quarter. One other thing I want to touch on is gifting visibility. So it's one thing to have it, it's another thing to make it visible for the shoppers. As I like to say, the importance of gifting visibility is simple. If you can't see it, you can't buy it. So one of the things that we measured here as part of this group is, did the retailer have a top navigation gift link? And what you find is that 68%, so 2 out of 3 had it. So important, I think, to think about that. And if gifting is important to your business, you should be seeing that at least during the holiday season. One thing I wanted to measure there is, where did they place that? So you see that 74% of the retailers had some type of linkage or visibility in the footer. Most often that was a visual of a gift card or a link to gift cards. Homepage merchandising was seen on 62% of the retailers. That's what you see here on the left. And Chico's, they do a nice job of showing, like, chic your way with their Style Connect capability, my closet, my information about what I'm purchasing, Afterpay if you're looking to finance your purchase. And then, side by side, you've got your gift cards right there. 14% had a drop down to those gifting links. It's there, but a little bit harder to find, and 6% left navigation. So there's some room for improvement in this area, you might say. Lululemon also does a nice job with this. They had on their site just before Mother's Day gift. It's linked off the top nav, but then when you look at it, you see on the side Mother's Day gift ideas, and their women's and men's what's new integrated right into the section, as well as all of the products, from women's, men's, and accessories. So there's lots of ways to make your gifting visible, and an opportunity that you really need to be thinking about. Gifting fundamental number 3. This, as I mentioned, was loyalty and gifting programs, broader initiatives. We all know that shoppers gravitate to retailers where they are rewarded. We all know the power of Amazon Prime and what we're all up against as we try to, maintain our specialty store businesses. So 66% of the retailers that we looked at had a loyalty program in place, so pretty strong given the, range of retailers. 36%, 1 in 3 had corporate gifting. 80%, almost everyone had a wish list, which you can buy and share and put your favorites in. And 22% had a gift registry. And of course, we wouldn't expect that to be much, much higher, because it's really something that's only appropriate for certain types of businesses where certain type of buying takes place. But again, it can be very effective and is very effective for those type of retailers. We have to believe that there's a lot of growth opportunities that can come from corporate gifting if the products being sold are well suited for bulk selling. It doesn't have to be a single section like we see in this example from Nordstrom's, though they've done a really nice job with it. It can be something that's just integrated at the gift card level. So in this Nordstrom example, you see that they will tell you, why should I buy my gift cards from Nordstrom? How does this program work? FAQs in case you need to get a hold of them. You have a question you don't understand. And then contact us, again, making that a one-stop environment. Someone's going to be purchasing, significant number of cards. They may need to talk to someone about how they want them to look, or how they're going to be shipped, or their scheduling. Gifting fundamental number 4 is customer service. And here our focus is on the shipping and the delivery and the policies. So for us, the reason why we think it's so important is that customer service plays 2 roles from a gifting perspective. It informs the shopper of the retailer's policies. How long does it take to ship? What's your window? And supports the shopper throughout the journey. They may have questions. And there's lots of opportunities for you to answer those and to convert the customer rather than have an abandonment statistic. So live chat, you see at 76%, 26% of the retailers offered free shipping in all products. We know if that was threshold based, it would be a much, much higher number. 14% had same day delivery. You may be interested to know that included Amazon, Target, Nordstrom's, Kate Spade, Best Buy, and Michael's. Not necessarily all free, but available, and certainly a growing piece of the logistical business. Shipping cutoff for ground delivery. This doesn't mean that you just have the cutoff. It means that you post the last day to ship it. Customers need to know, particularly as you get closer to ground cutoffs. 22%, so not as strong as it should be. 100% had their return policy posted, and 36% had their holiday return extension granted, giving you more time than you would otherwise. And you see that in this best-in-class example, I think, from David Yurman, nicely delivered, visually. You see that it's at your service already makes you feel like it's for you. Complimentary shipping to free day shipping. But what I'm touching on here is the 45 days they extended their returns. And as far as I can remember, QVC was the first person to give us that end of January delivery return time. And shoppers like it, particularly in the gift season. Gift packaging, they have their gift cards, gift now as an option, as well as financing. So you see a lot of similarities, but what matters is having it be one stop and available for the customer. So what did we learn? How did the retailers stack up? We broke it into 4 different areas: gift rich, gift focused, gift average, and gift challenged. And here, 70 plus, 14% of the retailers were in that range. And that included Best Buy, Kay Jewelers, Michaels, REI, Target, Tory Burch, and Walmart. Gift Focus, which we also consider to be a good score, came in at 60 to 69 in terms of the scoring metrics, but 22% of the retailers. So 36% sort of were making a strong cut, whereas 46% came in at gift average, and below 50 gift challenged at 18%. So a lot of work to be done there. So what were the features that were found in these gift-rich retailers? What do we need to be thinking about? 100% had the plastic gift cards, the digital gift cards, the gift center, the gifts by attribute, the return policy, the wish list. I think if you don't have those, probably something you need to consider. 86% you could personalize those, had live chat, a top gift link. So they were cognizant of the visibility factor. 71% had a loyalty program, gift center top sellers also at 71%. And then 57% corporate gifting and a gift advisor. And in the 43, just under half had the holiday return extension granted, the gift registry, shipping cutoff dates, same day delivery, and the gift center, what's new. So think about these when you're thinking about what features you have and maybe some you'd want to put into play. And lastly, I share with you these fast facts so that you have them in your deck, because some of them are really interesting and might be something that you can share with your team. So just a couple I'm going to touch on. The average number of days to return post-holiday was 85, because there's some people in the study you can return all year round or it's unconditional. And the fact that 96% of the retailers had the digital gift cards, yet only 16% had the option to add video. So there's lots of different pieces to this, and use this as you will within your business. So I encourage you to find out what your score is. So test out the gifting index process on your business. It's a great exercise. It shouldn't take you more than an hour or so. Evaluate the competitive landscape and see where you stack up. Put some best practices into place. Think ahead. Now's a great time to be thinking about what you're going to be doing for the fourth quarter. And like every other business, test and refine, your business. And we encourage you, we'd love to have, if you want, you can request a copy of the slides or the report through hello@giftnow. And there's my contact information if you have any questions. And with that, I thank you for your time, and I'm going to turn things back to Scott.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Great presentation. And I just want to remind everybody that Lauren's deck is available as a handout to download. There's a ton of good information in there, and I think she has a great suggestion of using her index to rate yourselves and see how you stack up compared to your competitors. That sounds like a really good use of time. So thank you so much, Lauren, for that. So wanted to turn to our audience and ask you all a few questions, and then we'll get into our panel discussion. So the first is, what has gifting been like so far in 2021 in terms of, has it gone up or down? So much higher than last year, somewhat higher, about the same, somewhat lower, or much lower. So we'll give it a moment to see how some of the scores are coming in. So we're seeing it skewing definitely to higher than last year. Around 20% is saying much higher. About 55% is saying somewhat higher. 4% are saying somewhat lower or much lower than last year. And only about 18%, 19% are saying that it's the same as last year. So we definitely are seeing these seem to be, gifting seems to be higher than in 2020. So the next question, what are you doing with video messages in digital gift cards? So this was something that Lauren mentioned as a way to make video really stand out, or gift cards to stand out and make them personalized. So are you currently offering this feature? Are you considering this feature for the future? Did you try the feature and it didn't work? Or is it nowhere in your consideration set and it's not on your roadmap? Nobody has tried and it didn't work. And around 50% are considering it for the future. Only around 7% are currently offering it, and around 48% have never offered it and are not considering it this feature. So not a lot of traction for now. It does seem like there's some interest in there moving into the future. Last question, and this is really teeing up our webinar for next week, which again is elevating customer experience for e-commerce growth. And the question here is, which customer service strategies have you implemented? And you can select all that apply. The 4 on this list are automating responses to frequently asked questions, allowing customers to communicate with your brand through multiple channels like email, chat, SMS, personalizing messages based on CRM data. And then 4th is using customer service inquiries to upsell customers with targeted offers. So give everybody a moment to fill that out. So it seems like the most popular feature is allowing customers to communicate with your brand through multiple channels. And that is followed by automating questions to frequently asked questions. And then a little bit of traction on personalized messaging based on CRM data. And only about 13% are using customer service inquiries to upsell customers with targeted offers. All right, well, we may turn back and get some conversation going there. We are seeing some questions coming in from the audience, so thank you all for those. But for now, I'd like to bring the rest of our panel up, all of our speakers, and we can take down the slides. And I would like to welcome to our webinar Jackie Diette from Kate Spade and Laurie Gatto from Chico's FAS. So why don't we just start, Jackie and Laurie. Jackie, we'll start with you. If you could please introduce yourself, your role at Kate Spade, and help us understand a little bit about why gifting is important at Kate Spade.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. I'm excited to be part of this. I'm Jackie Diette, and I'm the Director of E-commerce at Kate Spade, New York, which is part of the Tapestry family, which is also comprised of Coach and Stuart Weitzman. And gifting is important to Kate Spade brand for the obvious reasons that it's important for every retail company, considering the biggest revenue quarter is centered around holiday gifting. But beyond just our revenue at that quarter, at Kate Spade, it plays an important role in branding for us, as we're a brand where one of our pillars and goals is actually including joy and celebration and bringing an emotional component to our customers. And we find what better way to capture those feelings than with the art of gifting, where there's a natural alignment there.
And Laurie, yeah, if you could introduce yourself, and I know you're new at Chico's as well.
And, I apologize, I'm on mute. Yeah. So it's nice to meet everyone. I'm Laurie Gatto. I'm a senior director at Chico's. I just started about a month ago. So I actually just came from a gifting company called Knack Shop. So as I speak to kind of more of the gifting, I'll probably be talking more about just my past experience there over the last year and kind of how we saw things really kind of change from a landscape. It's probably too soon for me to talk too much about Chico's, as I'm kind of onboarding across the Chico's family of brands, which is White House Black Market, Soma, Chico's, and then Off the Rock.
Great. And any just general thoughts? I mean, you've been in the industry for a while about, you know, just why you feel like gifting is an important topic and something worth investing in.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, just I've spent about 18 years in e-commerce and marketing roles for a variety of company. Back in the day, Things Remembered, which was a very personalized gifting. If some folks who have been around for a while, they were a mall retailer and e-commerce, and then just kind of across a lot of different verticals. And I think, you know, one thing for certain, gifting used to be, and I think, you know, John, you kind of have spoken to this before, is that gifting was really kind of centered around your key seasonal, like your Mother's Day, your holiday, your Father's Day, Valentine's Day. And gifting is a lot more than that. And I think there's an opportunity just kind of within that, you know, category to be thinking about it as kind of an all year long, because there's always a reason to gift. And I think especially kind of coming out of last year, folks are finding more of a reason to gift just to kind of help build that connection. And I, concur with a lot of things that John was talking about earlier.
Yeah, John, how many people have a birthday in any given day? I've heard that statistic from you.
It averages like 800,000, 820,000 a day.
Right.
And usually it's 2 to 3 purchases per person. So you're talking about 2 or 3 million transactions a day that are for birthdays and birthdays alone. And guess what? It'll happen tomorrow again, and the next day, and the next day. And so it is the gift that keeps on giving.
So Jackie, Lauren showed a great slide in her presentation from the Kate Spade website with like a whole number of gifting options. And I wanted to see if you could tell us a little bit about how that all came together, how you decided to put those there, and anything you can share about some of those gifting options that may have a higher impact than, folks might be thinking about, things like the private appointments or the personalized gifts. What do you find is working really well with some of those options?
Yeah, so that section of our site is our go-to for any and all services or assistance that Kate Spade can offer around gifting. It covers product, virtual assistance, delivery, in-store help, and then some. And the section really came together because while all brands try to acknowledge their omni-channel shopper and build that presence, is what we found is the omni plays a huge role when it comes to the gift giver. So what started as a page for us of simply putting our digital services around gifting for the site, we quickly realized that customers were contacting customer service and asking for help around the gifts itself or even the services. So they were asking things not just for online, but for in-store questions. And gift giving requires some effort and some research. And so whether the customer is going to buy in-store or online, they're likely using online to learn something about the offerings. So in order to cover our bases here, we wanted to make sure we had a section that just put it all out there on the table. And in terms of what has a higher impact from that page, because of what I was getting at with why we put everything there, I can't necessarily say like one element has a higher impact than others, because the thing to focus on here is that every gifter is different. They're different about what they're looking for. They're different about what they know the recipient may or may not want. They can be different about the level of help they want, about the channel they'll use to purchase. So because you can't really predict which type of person the recipient is going to be, and because there's just so many, the impact is really in trying to capture all of them to the best of your ability.
Great, thanks for providing a little bit more color on that. I think for both Jackie and Laurie, we've been talking, we saw in Lauren's presentation with a number of important gifting features and merchandising opportunities. But I wanted to ask, and you've both talked about, some of the things you've already been doing, but anything else you can mention about some of your most successful gifting strategies throughout the year? I mean, is it around, reminding people of gifting opportunities like birthdays or relatives, or is there, what are you finding that you haven't mentioned so far that's a really successful gifting strategy? Laurie, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple things. Certainly this last year was an interesting year, or like actually, let's go back to a year and a half ago now. It's like this year's flown by. I think there was definitely nimbleness in the space because customers' needs shifted in the retail sector across everything. And I think that was from everything that they were shopping for, what they were looking for, specifically when it comes to gift giving. And I think, it was really kind of a three-pronged approach when I think about over the course of what has happened since, let's say March of 2020. And it was like, what were folks looking for from a product standpoint? So there was a little bit of a shift in the product strategy. Do we have to have gifts at maybe a lower price point? Because a lot of folks were looking for quarantine gifts or work from home gifts or care packages where maybe they didn't want to spend $150, but they just wanted to be able to send something to someone to say, hey, I'm thinking about you. So I think there was definitely kind of a gifting strategy from what the product offering was. And then even in hand with that too was, there was definitely a customer mind shift about buying things that were important and mattered to them, if it was from like an ethos, like from a Black-owned business or from, women-led companies. So that shifted a lot of that strategy from a product offering. And that was what customers were certainly talking to us about and wanting to offer. Most of the business that we did at my last company were consumer focused, but we also have a fair amount of, corporate gifting, and that need, consumer and corporate, was very similar with that customer mindset. And then I think too is with that, then it was like, okay, from a site experience, what did we offer to these customers? And we did do some testing around, because the interesting thing in the gifting space, you have two consumers, the purchaser and then the recipient. And within the recipient, it's like, how are you making their experience? So we really focused on, when we were sending the gift to the customer, there was the ability actually at the time of purchase to leave a video message, which would appear through like a URL or a QR code on the gift message. So the customer getting the gift could go into the website portal and actually hear or see a video that was made to them by the recipient. So that was one thing that we implemented just to make the gift feel that much more personal when folks weren't able to get together. So I'd say those were just some examples kind of from a site. And then I'd say from a marketing, it was just, understanding where and what customers were looking for and kind of shaping some of our marketing messages around that.
Wow, those are some great suggestions. Thanks. And Jackie, what about from you? Any anything that you've been doing that you find is working particularly well, both on the marketing or merchandising side?
Yeah, so for us this year, and this would probably be as a surprise to no one, I think there's actually a panelist question or a audience question about this, but our most successful gifting strategy was started as a COVID response where we were pushing the e-gift cards just because we knew we couldn't push in-store services. So we started heavily marketing these and giving them a presence on the site, adding them at the top of every email. And where we saw these huge spikes were around the holiday opportunities, right after a shipping deadline cutoff happened, or even the day of the holiday itself. But what we found is that even as the COVID restrictions lifted and in-store pickup happened, we thought it was a COVID shopper, but there's actually this evergreen last minute, oh no, I forgot shopper that's with us every day. And so we now have seen that the e-gift card is still a top 3 item almost every single day. So we're going to continue to market that ongoing in emails and even outside of the holiday seasons.
So yeah, there was a question from the audience from Vince Cole about packaging of gift cards. So the question is, in an effort to increase supplemental revenue, what trends are surfacing in the packaging of gift cards so they're more impactful presentation to the recipient? I think video is one of those. They're mentioning, custom packaging, a small gift and a gift card combined. John, I'm going to turn to you. I mean, you live and breathe gifts and gifting, and I'm curious what trends you see coming down the road or ones that are emerging right now. And, especially as we're hearing, what Jackie's saying, how popular gift cards are.
Yeah, it turns out they're really popular, and they continue to be popular. If you look at the NRF data, it'll tell you that the number one requested thing, if you want to air quote that, for holiday is gift cards versus a particular category, apparel, only coming in second to gift cards. So our belief philosophically is that when I'm going to give you, Scott Silverman, a birthday gift of $50 from a particular brand, I'm actually giving you the brand in the value of $50. I'm not giving you $50 that happens to have a logo on it, right? It's not about the cash. And so if it was, I would just give you greenbacks and call it a day. I wouldn't waste my time even putting it on plastic or in an email. And so we focus a lot on the experience side of it. It's bridging and delivering a message beyond the $50 intent in that particular gift. And so things like the videos, the ability to upload images, the ability to create a connection between the two people, the gift giver and the recipient, but with the brand sitting at the center of that. And oh, by the way, there's $50 under there too. And so that's the trend we're seeing from a consumer perspective, right? We do a lot in service of the consumer. In the end, our partner is the retailer. And so if we serve the consumer well, in what we deliver, the retailer will benefit from that. And so our focus, we kind of have that two-headed focus right now with building great products and experiences for consumers that yield benefit for our retailers.
So Lauren, you talked a little, I think you kind of wrapped up nicely, no pun intended, your gifting presentation about some, how the retailers should think about this information and some next steps. But I'd be interested here if you have any additional, thoughts. If you're a retailer watching this, you're gonna, and you go and take some time and you look at your score, how do you think about next steps of what you should be upgrading, where you should be making investments and making updates to your roadmap. And I also saw you give a lot of weight to customer service, which I didn't really think about that in terms of gifting until, you put some context around that. So I'd be interested to hear, if that's an area where you think really deserves more attention than some others.
Well, that's a lot in one question, Scott.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I'm really
all right,
bad
but that's
at
okay. I'm going to give I'll give it a shot. So first of all, I would say you have to know who you are. So don't panic and go, I'm not a 72 or I'm a 42. It's like when your kid comes home with a test score and you see the grade and you think, that's not as good as I would have liked. I think what you want to do is kind of say, who are you? How important and how critical is gifting to your business? I believe that can be a year-round business, and that's why the customer service is so important. And if you think about it, if you restrict somebody's window to return something, they might right away say, I'm not going to buy from you. That just number one, if you say you have a 30-day window, or those people who put up and say, oh, it's only 15 days to return that. I mean, to me, it's like red flag. I'm not purchasing from you. So I think that's one thing that's important, why customer service matters. I think the other thing that we see that I didn't do, which I'll probably put into next year's survey, is free return shipping. That is a big thing that a lot of people are looking for, particularly in the apparel and accessory space. So be thinking about that. We're going to count that next year. But I think you don't have to be in gift focused at 60 to 69. I mean, you can shoot for gift focused. You don't have to be in the top. I think what matters is you need the universals. You need the gift card. You need the digital card. You need the gift center. And, I always have this expression like, when they measure you, I would always say, we measure, do you have it? Okay, you get 1 point. And then it's like execution. So like the guy has shoes, but the shoes are dirty. So it's like, just because you have the shoes doesn't necessarily mean that you've executed it well. So you want to be sure, like when it comes to the things like the gift center, or even using like, the Kate Spade example of the one stop for customer service, that's very powerful for the shopper. So all of those things matter. But I think if you start with the score and test yourself, and then there's, I think this goes back, Scott, will harken back. This goes back to Judy Newman, who did Eddie Bauer, was one of the founders with shop.org. She always said, shop your own site. So I encourage you to shop your own gifting and to see what the experience is like. Does the package come crumpled? Does it, like, what does it look like? Does it seem like they're asking you for more information than you need? So there's no substitute for doing your own homework on your own site.
So we had another, well, thank you. I threw a lot at you. That was a good job, Lauren. So there was a question that came in about the importance of tying social good, giving back into, probably everything, but in for this conversation, gifting. And I mean, this has been, I think, a really strong theme within Commerce Next, and that we're seeing within the industry around the importance of social responsibility, sustainability, and so on. Laurie, you mentioned a little bit about, highlighting, Black-owned businesses where, people could buy gifts from and so on. But I guess maybe starting with Jackie and Laurie, is this something that you're thinking about? Do you see this? Is it anything that you're doing? Do you see yourselves doing more of it? Are your customers asking for it?
I mean, I'll start, and I don't know if it's the answer that everyone's feel good answer everyone's going to hope for. But we actually have really found, and we've tried to add social elements to gifting, to just selling in general, and it's been not gotten the response that we really hope for. I think what we see is if the brand really puts a name around it, like a Tom's, it has meaning there. But when a brand is jumping on the bandwagon, which I think a lot of us did try and do over the past year with some social issues, it can come off as insincere or just doesn't stand out from the crowd. And so that was our experience, and we understand that there is a need out there, and we're trying to figure out the best way to do it. But like really making sure like your brand's name is tied to that social experience is, I think, more important than the act itself or at certain points in time.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I feel like it needs to be, there are some companies out there that have done a great job, like Bombas and, to your point, Tom Shoes, where it's built into their DNA, and they're fully invested from everything from their supply chain to whatever, right? And I think that is definitely something. I can't really speak to Chico's, it's too new, but I agree. And I think too, even, a lot of companies do try to, during the holidays, like Giving Tuesday, there's a lot I've just seen over my career where, on this day, we're going to give back to this organization. And I've never seen enough data around to say, okay, well, was that effective? How did customers actually really feel about that? Right. Because and I agree with you completely, Jackie. It does have to feel like it's part of the DNA of the company and feel legitimate. And yeah.
I just would like to add one thing on that one, Scott, because I remember Orvis was really early on with doing that. I think they gave a percentage of their sales, or you could donate within the shopping cart to Nature Conservancy, I think it was. So again, I think back to the point of where it fits in, it makes sense, but it can work for people. But it's a specific thing, and it's also how you execute it on the site.
So, John,
I was going to add just one thing around the connecting gifting with giving, essentially, right? And so we've seen it, or we've experimented with it, and now it's part of our actual corporate gifting capability, where oftentimes, who's here has gotten a corporate gift that they actually don't ever like, need, want, and we're burdened with deciding whether to even bring it on the plane home with you from conference, whatever, right? And so we threw the idea in with the corporate campaigns that we run for large enterprises to customers or employees or whomever they're trying to show an act of expression to. We built the ability for them to offer their recipient to donate the value to the charity that they are standing behind as an option, right? So you can have the air fryer, a pair of boots, a fuzzy pair of socks, or give the money to charity. You'll never believe the take rate on the give the money to charity. It is on average 40%, right? Which is an enormous number. This was an experiment just to see, would we get any engagement at all on it? And it turns out that it was 40% were saying, pay it forward, give to the charity. And that actually created a really interesting sort of feel good moment for everyone involved. Of course, the enterprise giving the gift, the person receiving it, getting to contribute, but to do that with somebody else's money. And so this has become part of the way we think about especially our corporate experiences, and maybe someday in the future, even consumer experiences.
All right, well, we just have time for one more question. I'm going to do a yes/no question. We back a few weeks ago during our summit, Jason Goldberg spoke, and he talked about COVID shopping habits being a one-way door or two-way door. The one-way door is you go in, you create a new habit, you never change. And the two-way door is you change a little bit. So, maybe you try it a little bit, and, but then when you can go back in the store, you go back to some of your old habits. So for gifting, John shared some data about a big spike. And I think all of your comments have been that it's been much bigger during COVID. So the question is yes or no. Is gifting, the gifting habits we saw during COVID, a one-way door? Yes or no? Jackie?
Yes.
Lauren?
No.
Laurie?
No.
John?
Lauren, I can't believe we're disagreeing on this, Lauren. Of course they are.
Well, we can't always get along, John. I mean, sometimes we have to have disagreements.
All right. Well, we are at the end of our time. I thank you all for spending an hour with us, sharing some great data.